Hey, hello. Happy 4th of July. Not that I'm celebrating or care, but I assume some of you are celebrating. So, congrats or something for existing for so long. It's a wonderful day today. Doing a rational live doesn't come around very often. I got some stories to talk about, things that aren't really important, but before we do that, before we get there, I think it's important that we properly celebrate the 4th of July right here.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's
All right, enough of that.
last gleam, whose the stripes and
I had both going at once there. It was crazy. I wonder if we play both together, if they'll go together. Let's see. Okay, that's probably too much. All right. I think we'll stop that now. Look at that. Chat's working on screen. Fantastic. Yeah, they did line up almost too perfectly. A little bizarre how well those two lined up. Not sure how that happened or why that happened. Maybe we should just be one country. Huh? I just angered everybody at once. All right. Let's do things. I put some stories together again. Since I'm doing these live, this is not going to be like, your traditional rational national video, but I will do what I can here. So we'll be discussing, of course, more Joe Biden stuff because it's the hot topic. It's what's going on, as well as a quick story on an FTC ban. Sounds boring, or I should say the blocking of an FTC ban. But I think it's important to note, especially in the context of the upcoming election. And this idea of Kamala Harris and Bernie Sanders on the same ticket. So we will discuss both. Would that be successful? Also, would it be likely or possible? Maybe. I don't want to spoil anything, but it's not happening. That said, if it were to happen in a different universe where it was possible, well, I think it's not a terrible idea. And then Biden and AI. There was an article out discussing that the Biden campaign should be using AI to save its campaign. I'm going to quote a bit of that ridiculous piece and then show you who the writer is, because it's worth giving that context as well. Surprisingly, as far as I know, does not work for an AI company, though I did suspect that. He might, but in terms of the other articles he's written recently, it's interesting to see who this individual is. But all right, so what's going on today? Of course, I will be taking super chats as usual. So if you feel so generous on this July 4th, then please use what support you have, what support you have available to you. Send it my way, and I will answer your super chats. All right. Now, what should I start with? What should we do? Do you read non-super chats? I just read yours. The problem is the chat's over here. Maybe if I move it, I'll see it a little easier. Okay. There's the chat in front of me now. All right. Man, I hope I don't have to burp throughout these videos. It's not going to be good. I had a eggs Benedict this morning. Went out for a rare breakfast, and it was fantastic. Though the fries, or I should say the potatoes, whatever the hell, the hash browns, kind of, not really hash browns, they were undercooked. You could tell they were frozen. But, it was a cheap breakfast. Can't expect too much. All right. What should we discuss first? How about Mr. Lloyd? So I didn't discuss this guy in my video yesterday, though I guess I should have, because it would have worked in the context of the video. But I'm gonna have to go with a clean feed in case I use any of these clips for a segment later. Though my face looks so greasy on camera, I may have to degrease the video before I share any of these segments in their own video. All right. Do you hear that? There's music being played outside my window. All right. Where's the clean feed? There we go. There's the clean feed. All right. So the first Democrat has come out to officially say that President Joe Biden should drop out of the race. This is Mr. Lloyd Doggett. He's a Democratic representative in Texas. The first, I guess, chip to fall, assuming there's going to be more. There's been a lot of, discussion openly from Democratic politicians in the press about the idea that if Biden drops out and what they'll do then. But there hasn't been anybody, or at least until now, with Lloyd Doggett, claiming or saying outright that Biden should drop out. So Lloyd Doggett here saying, I want to share with you my statement calling on President Biden to withdraw. I'm not going to read all that, but I'm happy for you, or sad. But here are some quotes from CNN. So I represent the heart of a congressional district once represented by Lyndon Johnson. Under very different circumstances, he made the painful decision to withdraw, Doggett said in a statement. President Biden should do the same. So going on to say this could help usher in a new generation of leadership, which Biden himself said was part of his goal in being president, was to be the bridge to the next generation. Though he never explicitly said that I'm only going to be a president for 4 years, though there was a story about that leaked to the press before, I believe it was before the election, that apparently there were discussions behind the scenes that maybe this would just be a one-term thing. But there's a lot of misremembering about what Biden actually said. So he never actually said he would just do 4 years, but he did say he would be a bridge. And this goes to this, which I got to say I find annoying to read this because it's correct. In retrospect, I wish I had said it earlier because I think this needed to be a decision that was made much earlier in the process. This meme that I saw on Twitter perfectly encapsulates my feelings here from Talia Jane. Tough call. Proving the left was right. Letting the U.S. collapse into fascism. Team Biden. People on the left have been saying this forever. That this should have been a real discussion before the primary, not after the primary. Now, if he is going to be replaced, if he does choose to step aside, which is a big if, it's going to be a rush to get the campaigning together, to figure out, how this is all going to shake out, because it's July. The election's in November. Now, for most countries, that is not a big deal. Most countries have 3 months of an election, not 3 years. But the U.S. is different, and it's also, to be fair, very large. There are many different groups to speak to, and different perspectives, and different cultures within America itself. So it's a whole different thing. But it would be, it's going to be a rush if Biden decides to withdraw now. Now, I want to share this clip. Lloyd's made, I'm going to call him Lloyd. My old buddy Lloyd. He made a lot of appearances in a lot of media, but I purposely chose this clip because of the expression on the anchor's face. I when I first saw this come across my timeline, I thought somebody put this in. You know those Snapchat filters where it changes the look on someone's face. I thought somebody was doing that with her, but no, this is her face. as Lloyd Doggett here is talking about his decision to ask Biden to withdraw.
Well, I think I would apply it to plural, to alternatives, because I think we
There's
have
no
some
time for that.
talented governors. Pardon? I think we have talented governors. I think we have some talented senators. Certainly the vice president would want to be in the mix. The time is short, but there's no reason we can't have a true, clear, open democratic process, not making the decisions behind closed doors with a smoke-filled room, where ultimately the convention decides who our nominee is after presentations by people in advance of the convention about their program and why they appear to be the best person to take on President Trump. You know, we've had a year in which people have said we don't want either one, a too significant number of people, despite the horrible record of Donald Trump. We need, I believe, a better choice to energize and get more people involved who've been unwilling to participate up till now.
I was on mute there. I don't know if there's really enough time to have any proper process here. So I discussed in my video yesterday why, even though I don't think Kamala Harris is the best choice to defeat Trump, she makes the most sense right now. Because for one, she's the vice president. That makes the most sense. There's very little time to do anything else. And also, she's the only one that can, under law, get all of the campaign cash that Biden has raised that is already being used on staffers and ad buys around the country. No other candidate can legally have access to that money. There's a process. So David Dayen has a piece in the American Prospect that I quoted in my video yesterday, but there's a process by which you can try and move some of that money to a PAC, but then the PAC can't interact with the campaign, and the ad buys for a PAC is higher compared to a campaign, so the money wouldn't go as far. Essentially, it just makes the most sense, both from just a logical perspective, but also just the fact that Kamala Harris has access to that money, that it's hundreds of millions of dollars. So, again, I don't think she's the best candidate, but I think she's good enough to beat Trump, and I think she definitely would do better than Joe Biden. And again, I went over a lot of that polling in my other video, but Kamala Harris right now is polling about the same as Joe Biden is, but she has the ability, I think, to grow a lot more in her support if she were to be the candidate, because she has not really been in front of cameras too much. But again, all of this, of course, hinges on Joe Biden actually dropping out, which we're going to see after this weekend. Apparently, according to a report from the New York Times that was also shared by CNN, there's an ally of Biden that talked to Biden who is apparently considering his future in the race. And this weekend, meaning this interview coming up with George Stephanopoulos and the two campaign stops he has coming up, these are going to be very important for him. If he cannot perform well in these appearances, then he is more likely to decide that he's not going to continue. But I still think, just knowing politicians, knowing egos, knowing Joe Biden, it's going to be very tough for him to come to the realization and the decision that he should not be the candidate. All right. I'm going through MR withdrawal. It's been one day. You're already missing your favorite show? Let's get this chat back on screen. Oh, look at that. We just missed a super chat notification. But we got some chats here. Let me see. A lot of chats. Generous folks on this July 4th. Law Gnomes sends a generous $10 super chat. Thank you. says if I send this before you do it, it's a bribe. But after you do it, it's a tip. Either way, if you take an official act, such as making a climate channel for the Discord, then this isn't evidence. Okay. I got to be honest, I have not been on the Discord. I assume you're talking of my Discord because there's also a Leftist Mafia Discord. I just don't really use Discord. I feel like that is kind of that really shows my age, I think. Like I would use it if I had more people to game with, and maybe we'd use it as like a chat channel, but I don't have a lot of gaming friends. So which is unfortunate, I gotta say. But I will check. I will see if I even remember how to make a channel on the Discord. But I got no issue against making a climate change channel. I just don't think there's enough interest. You may be the only person posting on there. A day in forever. That's your name. It's all one word. Thank you for your super chat. Says does quote Israel is our greatest ally piss off Canada? I'm not offended by that. No. I mean, it tends to be, it's whatever country the president is in. Like if they're in Mexico, oh, our greatest ally, Mexico, right next door. I remember there being a controversy now about that. I forget if it was during Obama or during Bush, but I think one of them called UK their greatest ally, and apparently some Canadians were pissed off about that. And then the response from the White House at the time, again, I forget if it was Bush or Obama, was, well, the UK is our greatest friend, but Canada is like a brother to us. So that was how they like, this is back when that was a political scandal. Like, you know, it's wild to think that at a time that is what made headline news. Some Canadians are angry that the president called the UK their best friend. And now it's like, you know, scandals are, oh, the planet is on the verge of absolute destruction. The guy running for president is a total fascist. The guy running against him is on his deathbed. Like, the issues are just seem a little more serious now than they once were. T King says, love your videos. Use them to debate with a conservative Canadian. Well, how about that? Thank you, T King. I assume you're talking about the Pierre Poilievre videos, where Pierre Poilievre he's your working class buddy. This guy that's been in Parliament his entire life complains about career politicians and has worked his entire career to benefit massive corporations and the wealthy. But he's for the worker. He also voted against gay marriage, even though his dad is gay. He voted for restrictions on abortion. He voted against cannabis legalization. But he's your everyman, Pierre Poilievre. He's for you. Thank you for your super chat. Chris Missile, thank you for your super chat. Send money to a Canadian or on Independence Day? No. And then you did. So thank you.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn?
Okay, we can't do the whole song. It's too much. Jorge Luis, thank you for your money. Hi, can I give you a tip from Mexico? Yes, you can. Clearly you can. Thank you. Still Alive says, do you know about Alan Lichman and his keys? And would you be willing to reach out and interview him? He said he's willing to talk to anyone. I do not. I am not aware. But thank you. Lawrence. By the way, I don't even do interviews on this channel. Like, interviews now are relegated to the Leftist Mafia podcast. That's where interviews are done. Unless it's like, you know, Cornel West emailing me, which when that happened, I wasn't going to say no. But apart from that, Lawrence, thank you for your $5 super chat. Can you please ask Trudeau to annex the U.S. as a treat? I'm from the U.S. I will ask him kindly and see if he responds to me. Arlie, thank you for your super chat. It says, do you want to interview more people? Your interview, it's so weird. I didn't see this chat, and I randomly brought up the Cornel West interview. Your interview with Cornel West was so great. Loved it. Who is your dream person to interview? I don't dream of interviews. I don't like doing them. I don't. I'm very antisocial. So I tend to not like talking to people, um, unless I already know them, which is hard because how do you meet people that you become friends with if you know them? You have to meet them first. But I don't know. Is there somebody I want to interview? There's nobody I want to interview. I can't think of one. I'm glad you enjoyed my Cornel West interview, but I feel like it was okay, but I don't think it's my strength. All right, let's get to the so this is going to be a short one. I just got a couple things to reference here, but I think it's important to not lose sight of the clear separation between Republicans and Democrats, even though sometimes, yes, it could be muddy, but there is a clear separation. Here, there. I'm not even sure if this will be cut out as a video because it's going to be really, really short, probably. We'll see. Shangoleo says, you talk so much online and you have 600,000 followers. You seem like you are social enough. Talking to a camera is not quite the same as talking to people in real life. A little different. This I find real, even giving speeches, which I don't enjoy. Like, I don't like the anxiety beforehand, but like, I rather talk to a crowd than have to introduce myself to one person. If that makes any sense. It probably doesn't, but it makes sense to me. I'd rather talk to a crowd than have to like walk up to somebody and say, "Hi, my name is David." Like that is like the scariest thing, probably of anything, is to walk up to like a stranger and just be like, "Hi, I'm David. Who are you?" I'm not even sure how to do that. Like I don't think I've actually developed that ability. Tyler Hackner says David Dolan, Jon Stewart would be amazing. Yes, sorry, I was reading someone else's chat as I was after I finished reading your chat. Sure, that'd be amazing. I'm not sure what that would be. You know what? Yeah, I would interview. I say I would love to interview Jon Stewart. The reality is I'd be too scared to, so probably not. All right, JCast says everything hurts and I'm dying. 3 thumbs up. Thank you, JCast. Hope you didn't need those $2 to ease the pain. All right, there's a story that I was going to do. A Trump judge has just reminded us why Trump is a disaster and would be a disaster again. This is a great piece here from Common Dreams and Jake Johnson. Trump judge partially blocks FTC ban on anti-worker non-compete clauses. So if you remember, I believe I covered this at the time. I think I did. A few months back, there was the FTC came out and blocked the ability, or I should say banned the ability for corporations to include non-compete clauses, allowing workers to leave a company and go work for another company in the same industry because, of course, that is where their knowledge is. Now, it was an incredibly pro-worker move. The one of the clearest differences under Joe Biden compared to Trump is the pro-worker perspective and policies that have been pushed forward throughout Biden's presidency. And that applies especially to the NLRB, which has been incredibly pro-union, or I should say pro-worker, compared to Republicans, but also compared to previous Democratic administrations. This has been a clear difference between, Biden and previous administrations. And this is a reminder as to why someone like Trump, isn't just a disaster because he's a fascist, but there are aspects like this that people often don't even think about that can be impacted. So, a Trump appointed federal judge on Wednesday partially blocked the FTC rule banning most non compete clauses, ubiquitous anti worker agreements that prevent employees from moving to or starting their own competing businesses. So, this judge. So, actually, first I'll get to this. The plaintiffs include the tax service firm Ryan LLC and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Wonder where their interests lie. Of course, the nation's largest corporate lobbying organization. So, Ryan LLC was represented by former President Trump's labor secretary, Eugene Scalia. So it's not even just about the judge that is a Trump judge. It's also about the lawyer that is representing the side that the judge side with. They're both pro-Trump. Again, showing you, making it clear, as it should be clear already, that Trump is pro-corporation, despite all the bullshit that he has claimed really just since 2016, because he was never this before. He never tried to claim he was pro-worker before. But he very pro-corporation, pro-CEO, being as he is a CEO and has corporations. This should not be surprising to anybody. But the other aspect of this is just how disgusting that this whole system is. Watchdogs accused the U.S. Chamber, which celebrated Wednesday's decision, of judge shopping, a tactic the organization frequently uses to secure favorable legal outcomes. So they purposely look for a judge that is going to side with them and then utilize that judge as the way to stop pro-worker legislation or pro-worker ruling like this one from the FTC. So I think this is just, it's, this, it may seem small to some people, but this goes to the larger perspective that not even just Trump, because this is not a Trump issue. This is a Republican issue. And you could argue in the past a Democratic issue as well, but definitely more so Republican in the sense that they will do whatever they can to not even just continue the already these policies that already benefit massive corporations, but they will do what they can to claw back any attempts to try and put some more power back in the hands of workers. And this, you're going to see this to an even greater effect if Trump comes back in, because again, Trump isn't the one sitting back. He's not diving into, non-compete clauses. He doesn't care about this. It's the people that work for him. It's the people that work for the party that are concerned about this stuff, that will have all of the power. All Trump cares about is not going to jail and being the president and having that power. But in terms of the people actually doing the policy, actually doing the work, it's going to be, clowns like this that are fighting on behalf of Trump, both from the perspective of a judge, but also these sorts of initiatives to try and claw back worker rights. All right. Smooth transition. Jon Stewart, Bernie Sanders. That's the first thing I saw on my screen as I popped this up. What? In terms of interview or in terms of a presidential ticket? That'd be hilarious. That would never happen. There are more chats. Jay Silva, thank you for your very generous super chat. Still alive. Very generous. $20 super chat. Oh my God. Says Lichman is a historian who has correctly predicted 9 out of 10 of the past elections since 1984. Excuse me. He thinks Biden being replaced would be a huge mistake. I encourage you to look him up. He did a few CNN interviews lately. That's interesting. I'm definitely open to that perspective. I don't agree, but I did not get 9 out of 10 elections correct. What is the one he got wrong? Clearly, this guy is not 100% accurate. So he got something wrong. I'm curious what he got wrong, because maybe that could give a little window into maybe how he'd be wrong this time. It is sort of an unprecedented time, right? Like it's one thing to predict an election when it's 2 for lack of a better term here, normal candidates. It's another thing when it's a situation like we have right now, where you have somebody who was already president and is a fascist that's running again, and you have somebody who is just barely there half the time and may have had, has successes for sure during his presidency, but has lost a lot of support over the last year, largely, I think, because of his position on Israel, or I should say with Israel. And then that's just compounded by, his debate performance and sort of the realization from the mainstream that, yeah, actually the left was right the whole time. This guy is not a solid candidate. Claudius, thank you for your super chat. Katie Porter 2024. I think it's a very unlikely we would see that. Though I like Katie Porter. Rockstar Girl says, don't like doing interviews. Okay, who's your favorite person to drink a beer with? That would be my friend Miles. He would be my favorite person to drink beer with. But that's the one time where I'm okay speaking to strangers is when I'm drinking. That is the benefit of drinking, the only benefit of drinking. Lebowski says no one's heard of Katie Porter. Yeah, some have, but I'm sure most people haven't. That is the other benefit or I should say advantage for someone like Kamala Harris, is that she's the vice president. At this point, most people know who she is. It doesn't mean they have a formed opinion on her, but name recognition's a big piece of it. At the same time, though, I don't know. When it comes to it's not like it's a congressional race or even a Senate race. When it comes to the choice for president, there is a lot of free media, and everyone knows you have, one of two choices. So name recognition, I think, is less of an issue, as you're going to see a lot of the person regardless. But it's still something. Arlie says, do a hot ones interview only with shots. I'd rather just do a hot ones interview. I want to eat some chicken wings. Doing shots on camera, probably not a great idea. I'm not who I used to be. If I was like 22, 23, I could do shots on camera. Last a while, I'd be fine. But I'm old now, so I would just collapse. All right, there is what else do we got here? This is the fun story. Actually, I got to prep for this one because I had a whole video prep for this, or had this video prepped yesterday with a lot of notes. I don't normally take these many notes, but I did for this. So let me just move things around here. Yeah, so I prepped this for yesterday, and then the New York Times story came out about Joe Biden, and I was like, "Oh my God, I got to cover this instead." So this segment here was pushed to today, but I'm gonna be right back. I just want to go over some of this because I don't remember if I finished writing a couple points here, but I will be right back. All right, I'm back. Kowalski. I just saw a Kowalski super chat. All right, let me grab these chats, and then we will talk. We will talk Kamala Harris, Bernie Sanders. What? What? Is it happening?
Oh, say, can you see?
I don't know why I did the "Oh Canada," but there it is. Where was I here? Law Gnomes says Schumer for VP. Wait, what? Sorry. I can't. I know there's more of a sentence here, but I have to stop there. What? Schumer for VP and then get AOC in that Senate seat. There's got to be a better way to get Schumer out of that Senate seat than making him the vice president. Oh my God, no. Martin Anderson, let's not practice pragmatism. Don't go with your favorite, but the one who can win. Whitmer, say, is an obvious choice, even if not super progressive. Whitmer would be a great choice, I think. But it's July. It's July. There's not much time. It's July. It's July. I think you have to go with the VP. Kowalski, $9.99 super chat, very generous. Mr. Prairie Fire says 2 years ago, my family farm was destroyed by a tornado. Over 40 friends and neighbors showed up to help us clean up. This day means more to me now than blowing up fireworks. Community is freedom. Oh my God, Kowalski with a serious super chat. That is very heartwarming. I 100% agree. Community is freedom. Community. Communism. Interesting. Completely agree. That is where, that is how we make progress, is through community, is through relying on each other, is through the power of workers. All right, let's get to
when you have rational national priorities.
This fun. Oh, look, it's coming up now. Why is it coming up now? That's late. Before I go to this, T King, can you get Owen Morgan on the leftist mafia, please?
When you have
Do I know who Owen Morgan is?
priorities.
Sounds familiar. I'm not sure who that is. All right. How do I start this? Okay. We'll see. We'll see how I start this. Well, there is a lot of discussion, mostly online, only online, but it's an interesting discussion about the idea of what if, let's say, Joe Biden bows out of the race. Kamala Harris, VP, the natural replacement there. She has the only one that has legal access to the campaign money that Biden's raised. Kamala Harris, but who would be her vice president? How about the guy that came in second to Joe Biden in 2020? That's right. Kamala and Bernie Sanders, 2024. So I'm going to get to my thoughts. Would this be successful? That's one question. Would it actually happen? Is another question. So first, let's just go over some of what's been going on here. So there is this shared by Jackie, chaotic leftist on Twitter, saying this screenshot should be shared anytime someone objects to Biden not running for re-election. So a shot from CNN here. Incumbents trailing before and after first debate. Notice a trend here. They all lost. So, not a good sign. Not a good sign. There's also this is, I'm not going to play all these because there's like 4 or 5 of them. But every question from the press here to the White House is about Joe Biden stepping down. Let's just touch on a few.
Is President Biden considering stepping down?
Absolutely not. And you heard, I believe, directly from the campaign as well.
Given the groundswell of concern from fellow Democrats, from donors, from supporters, doesn't he owe it to the American public to reflect on whether he should step down?
I mean, look, it very much in Tu Sung Min's question, in my answer to her question, where he had an opportunity to talk to supporters. He's done it a couple times.
Okay, we get it. Boring. But it just every single question.
The president, and I know you will remember this, back in 2020, referred to himself as a transition candidate. He also said back.
Again, he's a British. Does he still believe that? And then she goes on to say, yes, he is, but that's why he chose Kamala Harris as the VP, but that doesn't mean he's dropping out. Another question. How is it the president was still tired 12 days after returning from Europe? So this goes to one of the defenses that the White House used about his debate performance is that, oh, he was just traveling Europe, which happened 2 weeks prior to the debate. He had been home for a couple of weeks already. Look, here's the reality. He is elderly. Joe Biden, yes, is old. Now, not everyone his age acts this. Bernie Sanders is older than Joe Biden. Does not have Joe Biden's same issues. But I would think the average person that is around Joe Biden's age or a little older tends to lose a bit of a step. So even like blaming the trip to Europe, I think is just ridiculous. They should just say, I mean, they're not going to say this, but they should just say, he's an old man. He's tired because he does a lot of speeches. He moves around a lot. He talks a lot. Though, when it comes to, I forget if that's in this video, but there's a graph showing Biden how many appearances he's had. I should say, I think it's how many press conferences he's had to other recent presidents, and it's not as many as others up to this point in his term. That said, age is obviously a factor here. And just, I'm going to play this because this is a little funny.
Can you say more about the duty
You're saying
piece?
that he's absolutely running.
Yeah. Well, he's saying that, and I'm sharing with you his view.
And we would invite the president to come here and tell us that directly.
Noted, Kelly.
But
he's awake.
That's inappropriate.
As you heard from your colleague, the president of the WHA, that's inappropriate.
Okay. Just somebody making a little quip there. I mean, it is, you could argue that's inappropriate to say if he's awake, but doesn't mean it's inaccurate. Now, the Biden campaign apparently put this digital ad out on their Facebook page.
And the contrast is clear. Look at what happened during the course of the debate. Donald Trump lied over and over and over again, as he is wont to do. He would not disavow what happened on January 6th. He would not give a clear answer on whether he would stand by the election results this November. He went back and forth about where he stands on one of the most critical issues of freedom in America, which is the right of a woman to make decisions about their own body. He has been completely ambiguous and all over the place about where he stands on that issue, despite the fact that he hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade, and that's exactly what they did.
That is a great clip to use in an ad. You cannot find a Joe Biden clip from the past 2 years, maybe more, that even comes close to something like that. Kamala Harris, you can go back to 2020. I think she didn't do too well in the primary in 2020. She had like one good debate performance, and a lot of that was because she criticized Joe Biden. And then as it went on, she wavered on Medicare for all. She wavered on several other issues, and just her campaign fell apart. And really, if you go back and look, I think I covered that at the time. Her campaign really began to fall apart when she backed off of Medicare for all, interestingly enough. But in this race, where it's really about highlighting the disaster that Trump is and what he has caused since he was in, especially as it applies to the Supreme Court, and I mean, this being a referendum on abortion rights and having potentially the first female president running, I think is symbolic in itself. But also just Harris's ability to communicate clearly, forcefully, with passion, with anger. That is very important in a race like this. And also be able to communicate the successes that have occurred under this administration, especially as it applies to workers' rights. So there is so, just seeing this made me not realize, because I knew this already, but just it clarified how much better Kamala Harris would be in this campaign compared to Joe Biden. Now, this gets to so I think this is the first from what I saw, this was the guy to really popularize this idea, though I'm sure someone else mentioned it first, but Dox, whatever the name is, Dax, Harris Sanders ticket can unite all the factions of the Democratic Party. I agree. Now, before I get to more thoughts in here, Elie Mystal, who I often quote when it comes to opinions on Supreme Court rulings, writing here, a Harris Sanders ticket reconstitutes the Obama coalition. Just saying. I'm going to finish my drink now. And Jordan Ewell, what a Harris Sanders ticket would look like. Only losing Florida, which I think is losing Florida for sure would be accurate. Florida hates Bernie Sanders, but it would be amazing. It may not be this. It'd be close. But all right, let's get to the first. Would this be successful? Before we get to is this realistic? Would this be successful? Hell yes. I think this does unite both sides of the party. Kamala Harris satisfies the Democratic base that was going to vote for Joe Biden anyways. She excites party members and donors that were concerned about Biden's health. She essentially is able to continue what Joe Biden has, but in a much younger and someone who can actually communicate and can campaign. Bernie Sanders brings out a more left-leaning coalition of people who were sour about Biden both in 2020, but are concerned now about his ability to beat Donald Trump. It also immediately addresses Biden's major political weakness, which I think is Israel, as Bernie Sanders has been the most vocal he's independent, but most vocal senator that has been critical of the Israeli government and their ongoing mass atrocities. So this would dominate. Now, there would be some weird losers out there that don't like Bernie Sanders because he's actually worked to help people his entire life and has actual principles, and they hate people that actually care. So some of those weird losers out there that exist, especially as it applies to people who are, intertwined with massive corporations. Yeah, you're going to maybe lose them, maybe annoy them. That is not the majority of people. A lot of people that don't normally vote would come out to vote for this ticket. That is why, people will bring up this idea. Oh, if Bernie's so popular, why couldn't he win a primary? The primary electorate is much different than a general election. Primary speaks to actual registered Democrats. It is a narrow swath of people that have to be registered as a Democrat. Not even mentioning here, Bernie is an independent. That's part of his appeal. The appeal Bernie has in a general that he doesn't have in a primary is that he's able to bring out people that weren't registered to vote, that would not normally vote. But he speaks to those people because he speaks to real working class issues and has a long history of speaking to those issues. All right, that aside, would this actually happen? No, of course not. There's a few issues here. First, the Kamala side, yes, that could happen again if Biden is not the candidate. But on the Bernie side, first of all, before I even get to the major issue, they're going to talk about his age. Bernie is older than Joe Biden. The biggest issue with Joe Biden is his age. Now, Bernie, of course, if you've seen him recently, he is perfectly fine. He's as sharp as ever. He hasn't lost a step. But the age, is still going to be a problem for some people. I don't think it's a problem for voters as much as it's a problem for Democratic, leadership. That said, the bigger problem and the bigger barrier for him is the same barrier that's been there since his first run. It's that he's a threat to massive corporations and CEOs, and by extension, a threat to corporate donors. So it would have to be like some kind of primary process for him to somehow end up on this ticket in any way. They're not going to choose him. So there is Zero chance of Bernie Sanders appearing on a ticket with Kamala Harris. But that doesn't mean it wouldn't be successful. That is what is so a lot of times so frustrating about politics is that oftentimes the thing that makes the most sense simply doesn't happen. And it doesn't happen because what makes logical sense, what's rational, what's best for people is not what is prioritized. All right, that's my. Did I have more on that? No. No, that was it. All right. That's my Bernie Kamala fun video. We can dream, can't we? We can imagine things that will never happen, but I missed the notification again. All right. Sam O. Thought on today UK elections and who you think will win. Well, I'm hearing Labour is going to destroy, largely because people are tired of the Tories, and not because Keir Starmer is some, incredible politician. So I haven't. Are the results coming in yet? I heard the final results are coming in at like 5 p.m. 5 p.m. Eastern time. So I don't know where things are currently at. I'm refreshing a page here to see. Not seeing anything yet. But by all accounts, it's going to be Keir Starmer as the next prime minister. Trent again. It's time. Jeb 2024. I got a funny story. Maybe two funny stories. Not really stories as much as they are just things that happen. Back in 2016, my girlfriend was visiting some family in Florida, and she went to her aunt is like Republican. I'm trying to think of a better way to say that. She's Republican, and at the time she was supporting Jeb because that's what Fox News was supporting. So she went to a campaign event for Jeb Bush, and met him there. And funny enough, when she went back to the airport to come back home, she ran into Jeb Bush at the airport and got a picture with him. And he was just like, he apparently was sitting there just like nobody was coming up to him. He was in an airport in America, in Florida, where he is known, sitting, waiting for the airplane. Nobody talking to him, sitting there and waiting. And this is while he was running for president. Poor guy. Please clap. I should have that please clap on here. That will never get tired. All right. Oh yeah, I got one more story. I almost forgot. I'm just gonna move some things around on my screen. See what chat's talking about. Oatmeal excitement? What is this about? Labor have kicked out their left wing and Muslims. Yeah, I know. I've covered a bit of that. Labor there is. It's unfortunate that Corbyn became leader when he did, because if he became leader now or before this election, now would have been the time to become leader, because this election apparently is more about people hating the Tories than it is about Labor. So it's possible the focus wouldn't have been so much on him and trying to tear him down. Then again, what am I saying? Power is very frightened of people who actually threaten it. So I'm sure they would have found a way to make it about Corbyn. All right. All right, this next thing that I have. Just checking my tabs here. All right. Yang Gang. What a time. That race really should have, from the start, it should have just been Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden, and Kamala Harris. And then fight it out. Charles Darwin says, do you think if they swap Biden out, will Republicans swap out Trump? No. This is the clear difference here that some people are missing. It's not simply that Democrats are more willing to be introspective. That isn't even really what it's about here. It's about the numbers. They see the discontent within the Democratic base, within their donor class as well, with Joe Biden. Donald Trump has this shit locked up, has the party locked up, has the voters locked up. That's why there is no concern about Donald Trump, is because the Republican base is the MAGA base. Some people argue that if a standard Republican was the candidate and not Trump, that they'd be doing better than Trump is right now. I don't think that's the case. The issue here isn't the swing voters. People often mainstream media wants to discuss the swing voters. There are very few swing voters. The issue is turnout. People that don't normally vote. Like, how many people really in your life? I'm sure some of them exist, but are most people in your life somewhere between Republicans and Democrats? Oh, I like Trump, but I also like Biden. I can't decide. No, most people probably don't like either. They're dissatisfied with both options, but there's a party that they typically vote with, and they're likely going to stick with voting with that party. So there was no reason for it. If Republican leadership actually tried to replace Trump, there would be an uproar, a complete revolt of the Republican base against the party. They would lose, I think, a lot of voting support in the election if they were to do that. So, at this point, it's a cult. It's a cult. I don't think replacing Trump for them would be successful. All right. Let me get to Biden and AI. Huh? How about that? So we're all aware of President Joe Biden's inability to campaign effectively, inability to debate effectively. But what if there was a solution? What if artificial intelligence came in and saved the Biden campaign? That is what a writer in HuffPost is arguing. I will get to that piece in a second and my thoughts about all that. But, this sort of information goes to why there is this attempt to try and think up these ridiculous ideas as a way to try and save the campaign. This from Axios here, Biden's media evasion. So number of press conferences and media interviews by president. Biden has had the least. And part of that, of course, is because the White House and his campaign are aware of his flaws. Now, this big interview with Stephanopoulos, that is supposedly one of the major deciding factors for Biden, if he's going to continue or not in the race, is apparently going to be just over 15 minutes, which doesn't really tell us a whole lot. Now, maybe since this has come out, they're going to make it longer because they don't want to give in to this idea that he's only willing to be there for 15 minutes. But you can't really prove a whole lot in 15 minutes. So that's where AI comes in. This is an opinion piece, of course. It's time for the Biden campaign to embrace AI. After the president's dismal debate performance, he noted that he might not walk as easily or talk as smoothly as I used to. AI could help with this. Okay. Now, I'm going to get to who wrote this in a second here and just look at a couple of their recent pieces because it's a little interesting. But I like some of the stuff here is just so absurd. The consequences of not doing this could be dire. Come on. So he goes on to argue the lifelong stutter, which the stutter is not the problem. The stutter was not the problem in the debate. That is not the issue here. If that was the issue, it would have been a bigger issue in his past. That is not the issue. The issue is his inability to communicate a coherent argument. That was clearly the issue in the debate. So this writer goes on to say AI augmentations and video renderings could serve to smooth out these bumps. So let's check some recent smoothing of bumps. So here's an AI video. Look how masterfully the AI tackles gymnastics. Oh my God. I've never seen a human do that before. The AI is thinking up maneuvers that I never would have even deemed possible. Incredible. Wow. Graceful. Amazing. I score this 10. Just imagine. Now, look, obviously this wouldn't go to air, but come on. Let's even pretend for a second that the AI would save the campaign, or not the campaign, would produce an ad. What is that going to now do? People are now not going to trust anything that is coming out of the Biden campaign, regardless of what he's saying or doing, because, hey, they've been using AI to smooth him over. So how can we possibly trust anything that he's doing? Arguing here, AI can be used to polish how the president comes across, allowing voters to focus on his substance. How many times have we heard voters and pundits alike gripe that Biden would be the perfect candidate if he were just 10 years younger? First of all, that isn't even true. I don't think Biden's the perfect candidate, and the age is the only problem. That is not the issue. Look at his polling before the debate. It was not good. So with modern technology, this exact deliverable is possible. Now, before I get to who this writer is, and I thought maybe they work for an AI company. It's possible they do. That is not what I found in their past, but I'll share some other stuff. But it's also important to note here just what the devastation that AI is doing to the planet. So this is a recent piece from The Verge. Google's carbon footprint balloons in its Gemini AI era. Despite the company's climate goals, Google's greenhouse gas emissions are on the rise thanks to AI. So their total greenhouse gas emissions have actually grown by 48% since 2019. Last year alone, it produced 14.3 million metric tons of carbon dioxide pollution, a 13% year-over-year increase from the year before, and roughly equivalent to the amount of CO2 that 38 gas-fired power plants might release annually. And their quote here, as we further integrate AI into our products, reducing emissions may be challenging due to increasing energy demands from the greater intensity of AI compute and the emissions associated with the expected increase in our technical infrastructure investment. So it would be in direct contrast to where the Biden campaign and the party generally claims they are when it comes to taking the climate seriously. But the other argument here, properly adopting to modern technology would also show that the campaign is agile and keeping pace with the times, contrasting the criticism of Biden over his age. So this idea that, it shows that, when Biden meets with Dua Lipa, that really helps his numbers. It's that same kind of mentality here, where associating yourself with a new technology somehow leads to you gaining support from the youths. When the reality is Gen Z apparently calls AI art boomer art. And this isn't just, conjecture that there is actual data showcasing who the audience for AI is. So this is a recent clip. This is from Midjourney. This is an AI company that said themselves in a discussion with their customers who their demographic is.
Which was a little surprising when it comes to like a new piece of technology. We're violent and gory, but we don't but we don't.
Right.
But I think that, yeah, I think in theory you could have younger people on Midjourney, but like under 18. But to be honest, we have more people over 45 than under 18, to our knowledge. So there are not that many teenagers on the platform. And I think it's a combination of the fact that we have no free tier, so most of them can't afford it. And it might also be because we have a lot of like strongly like lingual interfaces. So some of them might not be as good at words anymore with TikTok or something. But I'm always very happy when I see a young person on here. But they are rare. Like I think, yeah, I want to say there are more like 60-year-old women than 15-year-old like men on here, which was a little surprising when it comes to like a new piece of technology. I think last time I checked, like the rarest thing on the Midjourney platform is a young woman. Like a 20-year-old woman is extremely, extremely, extremely rare. I think that's like the rarest demographic or something on Midjourney.
The audience for AI skews older. This is not a technology that appeals to young people. The issue that Democrats have right now is appealing to young voters. Young voters care about actual issues. That is why Biden's support really has dropped considerably with young people since October, since his clear alliance with the right-wing Israeli government in their ongoing genocide. That has led directly to a drop in support. Maybe in the past, these sorts of, associating yourself with a new technology, or making an appearance with a singer, maybe these things would have had any impact. But I would have hoped by 2016, when Hillary Clinton was doing a lot of that, it would have at that point been clear that simply aligning yourself with what you perceive to be cool among young people does not lead to results in an election. You have to actually speak to their issues and show you have a history of speaking to those issues. Okay. Those are all the news stories. I missed it again. Every time I transition back, I miss the end of a super chat notification. Lots of support here. Look at this. Shy Guy. I love me a Shy Guy. Says, please search Trump or Biden 2024 on Twitch before you go offline. Why would I do that? What is happening on Twitch? Strange and Bizarre says, in what brutal shame are Oilers fans living in? I mean, they made it to the final. People, hockey talk for a second here. The Oilers made it to the Stanley Cup final. I'm not an Oilers fan, but I can't imagine feeling shame over making it to the final and then coming back after being down 3-0 to tie the series. I'm sure it was it's probably the worst way to lose, to give that much hope only to lose the series. But that said, they should feel good about their chances next year. So I wouldn't be too concerned as an Oilers fan, if I was one, which I'm not. I'm a Leafs fan, so I have plenty of concern myself. Still alive. Thank you for your super chat. Says you should see the AI videos of The Rock eating rocks and Vin Diesel drinking diesel. I think I have seen those. They're what you expect from AI. It's just nightmare fuel. No delay for days. Thank you for your generous super chat. Says the Democrats are self-destructing by sticking with Biden, who's unfit to lead and did poorly in the debate. They lack introspection, making it seem like the right is paying them to stay this course. Well, you know what they say. Democrats are a lot more afraid of the left than they are of Republicans. So we'll see. At this point, it's not even about, so to kind of respond to what you're saying here, it isn't, at this point, it's not the Democrats sticking with Biden. Like, this is the first time where we have actually seen cracks in the party, where there are sitting Democratic politicians, at least one saying Biden must get out of the race, others hinting that it's a good idea for him to leave. On debate night, you had Claire McCaskill, who is a Biden surrogate, say that Biden did a horrible job, and that and she was questioning his future in the race. Democrats are finally, it took a while, but finally seeing the reality with Joe Biden and how poorly he's doing right now. That's different than what needs to happen for him to actually get out of the race, which really has to be Joe Biden deciding it's time to go. That's a different fight, because you're fighting the man's ego. You're fighting, a 40-year history. This is all Joe Biden has ever known. He essentially, within a week, is now feeling the pressure to just get out of public life. And when he was expecting to be in it for at least another 4 years. So this is the issue with people that are drawn to politics generally, or drawn to being a politician or the president, is a lot of them, you almost have to be egotistical to make it to that point. It's very rarely is it thrust upon you the way it was, I would say, with Bernie in 2016. It was sort of thrust upon him. He tried to get Elizabeth Warren to run. She didn't want to, so he's like, there has to be a different voice here. It can't just be Hillary Clinton. So he got in, not expecting to do as well as he did. Like you have to get, it's unfortunate, but you almost have to get a good person for president by accident. Like, it has to be something like that, where someone runs not expecting to win, and then they win. Because if it's somebody who's been dreaming about it for years and their whole life they dreamt of being the president, and at that point you're just dealing with someone's ego. And it's politics is not, and it's like the one area where the one industry, I guess you can call it, where you do not want egos involved, because it is supposed to be about public service. Yet you could argue it draws the most egos, or the worst of them. But this is why it comes down to Jill Biden. It comes down to Hunter Biden, who both apparently were some of the loudest voices for Joe to stay in the race. So they are not helping either, unless they're going to change their minds soon. I don't know. Paul Cooper, thank you for your super chat. Still alive. Thank you again for your generous super chat. Says, real talk though, if Biden actually stepped down officially and gave it to Kamala, I predict that moment would be unprecedented and energize the base like crazy. I 100% agree. I agree. That would be a great moment. It would, like, a lot of the discontent for Biden, as it applies to young people, as it applies to marginalized groups right now, has been around his support of Israel. Wiping that, in a sense, clean. It's not perfectly clean, because it's still the administration, it's still the party, but that it would do a lot. It would go a long way to addressing that, and simply having a new voice in there, and having somebody who can actually campaign would be big. And as you say, that moment alone, I think, like, if that were to happen, that moment of just passing the torch would be huge. All right. Well, that's all I got. So probably going to jump off shortly. Let me just look at normal chat. If you got more super chats, send them in now before I jump off here. Jen says, I heard Jen Glemt says, I heard Dem voters want Michelle Obama to run. We've heard that since Barack Obama ran. I'm sure she would do fine.
When you
But,
have rational national priorities.
you know, we're kind of close to the election here. VP makes the most sense. Did you read Ryan Grimm's July 2nd article about an open convention? I did not. I just think that's it's possible, but it's so unrealistic. And also in the context of now knowing how the FEC would look at this and the ability for Kamala Harris to be the only one to be able to use the money raised by Joe Biden, at least in the traditional sense. Otherwise, it'd have to be moved to a PAC. And then, go read David Dayen's piece in the American Prospect that discusses why Kamala Harris is the only logical choice, just in terms from a money perspective. I have a hard time, after reading that, I have a hard time even opening up to the idea of someone else being the candidate. Sunset Wave says someone throws out Michelle Obama every election cycle. Yeah, they do. Ben Shea says David is a Leafs fan, so he knows real shame. Thank you. I'm glad some people understand what we have to go through. I have never seen. So in the history of sports, I'm a Jays fan, though I don't really watch baseball, but I'll watch if the Jays are in the playoffs. But I don't remember. I was alive, but I don't remember them winning the World Series twice. So that happened, but I don't remember it. Leafs have never won in my lifetime. They haven't won since 1967. What else? We have no NFL team. NBA, okay, fine. The Raptors won. Sure. Okay, that's a win. That said, I wasn't all that engaged in basketball until they hit the playoffs, but that was a good run. That was a good win. All right, fine. There's one win for me. But apart from that, like in terms of the sport that I care the most about, which is hockey, I have never seen the Leafs win. Canada, sure, they'll win the Olympics or on the international stage in various tournaments, but it's kind of a given. It was a given up to this point. Now the U.S. has a really good, America has a really good hockey program going on there. A lot of great players coming out, a lot of great hockey players coming out of the U.S. So they are going to, I think, begin to dominate a lot of international competition in hockey. But like I have just been disappointed my whole life as a sports fan. The one win that really stands out for me as maybe the one that made me the most excited was when Portugal won the Euro Cup in 2016. And they may win again this time. They play tomorrow. So that was because that and the way they won, I think it went to extra time. And there was a goal during extra time. It was an amazing victory. And Portugal had never won before, so they won there. That was huge. But apart from that, I haven't had a whole lot of success in my sports fan life. Sulfur says there were 13 Canadian players on that winning Panthers team. Yeah, I mean, Canada still dominates the sport largely, but a lot of young players now coming up are American. Like a lot of the high draft picks, like the Leafs have Austin Matthews, the top scorer in the NHL, at least in terms of goals, American. Their goalie Joseph Woll, American. I believe their second goalie now as well, Stolars, is also American. Brandon says Spain is winning the Euro. We'll see. Was it Spain who played, I think it was Georgia, where there was an own goal and then they came back to score 4 goals to win that game? All right. What should we end on here?
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight?
Oh, sweet. I control the audio on this. The levels. Orb Rumor says Melania Stormy 2024. Guaranteed victory. That's what I say. Guaranteed victory. All right, enough of that. CR McDonald says Mike Figueredo, Matt Binder 2024. Shy Guy says, shout out to Bernie's brother Larry, who I have to say follows me on Twitter. When he followed me, that was probably the most proud follow I've ever had in my life. Is when Bernie Sanders' brother followed me. What a great man. Sorry, you were saying, Larry, I was eating udon noodles with him and his wait, what? Let me say this again. Shout out to Bernie's brother Larry. You were eating noodles with him and his wife in London after the Namat protest for Gaza ceasefire. Lovely guy. Wow. Awesome. Well, you one up me. He just followed me on Twitter. You had noodles with him. Much, much better. This is hurting my eyes now. Let's get off this.
National
There we go. Shy Guy. All right. A lot of good ideas here. Emma Vigeland, Matt Binder, 2024. Bernie and Sean Fain, 2024. That is an idea that we should maybe explore more often, is the idea of labor leaders running for political office. There's a few of them that should consider it, for sure. All right. Andy Mitchell says, R.I.P. Gary Shandling. Didn't he die like 10 years ago? Rib torn, etc. Man, the Larry Sanders Show. I came to that late. So good. Go watch the Larry Sanders. It is Larry Sanders, right? Now that I'm seeing, now that I'm reading about his brother, I'm now confused. Yes, Larry Sanders Show. Man, I never put 2 and 2 together. Okay. Yeah, Gary Shandling is so good in that. What else? Let's grab some more chats and then out of here. Asteroid 2024. Larry Sanders reference, David. Oh, I know. Sarah Nelson, yeah. Sarah Nelson, Sean Fain, both should be people that are considering potential futures in higher office. All right. Goodbye. Enjoy your 4th of July, whatever you do. on such a day. Drink, eat. Maybe I'll have a hot dog later, just to commemorate the 4th. But all right, goodbye. Maybe will I do a video tomorrow, or will I cut out one of these videos tomorrow? Regardless, make sure you hit subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, which is somewhere down here. And if you want to support the channel, super chats are one way. Another way is you can join on YouTube, or you can join on Patreon, which is therationalnational.com/join. That link is below the video in the description box, or just patreon.com/therationalnational. Support the show. Every month or so, I do like I'll put a video out on there that's only for patrons, because it's stuff that I don't want to, that isn't worth doing a public video over, or maybe I don't want to face the repercussions of drama. So I avoid the public drama, but things I may discuss there that I wouldn't discuss publicly. But go check it out. Maybe you'll enjoy my my Patreon page. All right. Goodbye. How do I end this properly? Goodbye.